We're all going through this in one way or another. We've all been going through this in one way or another throughout the entire year. Anxieties will be running high. People will be experiencing a lot of restlessness, a lot of stress, and even a lot of fear and anxiety. So we're going to be kind of thinking and overthinking everything that we need to do, everything that we need to change. Hi everyone, Heather here with astrologywithheather.com, and I am back with another weekly forecast. And this one is for Monday, August 2nd, all the way through to Sunday, August 8th of 2021. And this week we have a powerful new moon in the sign of Leo coming this weekend. And this new moon is not just any new moon energy. This new moon is in a conjunction with Mercury, which means Mercury is combust. It's also going to be at a very tight square with Uranus in opposition to Saturn, activating that Saturn-Uranus square by forming a tight T-square energy. So what does this all mean? It means that with Mercury combust, anxieties will be running high. People will be experiencing a lot of restlessness, a lot of stress, and even a lot of fear and anxiety around the changes coming up in their lives, the new beginnings that they know that they have to make. We're all going through this in one way or another. We've all been going through this in one way or another throughout the entire year. And of course, it's being reactivated one more time. Well, I shouldn't say one more time. It's being reactivated again because it will come back around multiple times this year by this new moon energy. But before we get into that, I just want to mention, for those of you who are new to my channel, make sure you hit that subscribe button. I do a new weekly forecast every single Saturday at 9 a.m. Mountain Daylight Time, and so you never want to miss an important astrology update like this one. And even if you're not new to my channel, the way that I structure my videos is I always begin with a 5 to 10 minute general astrology forecast. Do not skip this, because this is going to provide you with an important context for the energy we're going to be describing in greater detail in my forecast for all 12 signs. Speaking of which, when I do get into the forecast for all 12 signs, make sure that you listen to your sun sign, your moon sign, and your rising sign to get a more holistic overview of the energy for your week ahead. Your rising sign will be the most predominant energy, your sun sign will be secondary, and your moon sign is important to listen to as well, although that energy will be a little bit more internalized and subjective. Finally, at the end of each video, I do a 2 to 3 minute overview of next week's energy. So make sure you stick around until the end for that if you want to know what's coming up next week. All right, so back to the forecast here. Let me just adjust this just a little bit. Okay, so basically what's coming up this week is that new moon energy, and that's happening on Sunday. That's kind of the big thing that we're building toward throughout the entire week. This is a huge energy, and this is super, super important because it's activating something, activating the biggest energy of 2021. It's activating the energy that we've been dealing with collectively and individually around needing greater freedom, around feeling restless, around feeling like we need to be liberated from something, around feeling oppressed and stagnant and stuck. This is where we're going to want to break free from a lot of rules, regulations, restrictions that have been imposed upon us within our lives, but are also being imposed upon us from the outside. We're seeing that collectively, and we're experiencing that individually. And so one of the kind of big energies this week that's a little bit different is the introspective component of this new moon. The new moon is always a time for rest, reflection, contemplation, and introspection. And this new moon, of course, is no exception to that rule. And with this new moon in particular, because it's activating all of this energy, and because it's, with the sun in a conjunction with Mercury, Mercury combust, we're going to be kind of thinking and overthinking everything that we need to do, everything that we need to change, every little frustration, every little tension, every little fear, every little anxiety. It's going to be up for review on that internal level. And one of the things we're really going to be reviewing is our role in building our own cage, is our role in preventing ourselves from creating the change that we want to change, that we want to make, or, that famous quote, being the change we wish to see in the world. How are you stopping yourself from being the best version of you? How are you stopping yourself from changing what you need to change in your own life in order to experience greater freedom, in order to reduce the limitations, burdens, and restrictions that you don't need anymore, that you know are past their expiration date, even if they served you for a time, even if they feel really comfortable, even if, you're afraid because they provided such a good foundation in the past. There are certain things right now going on in all of our lives that are showing us the cracks in our foundations, in our relationships, in our jobs, in our personal lives, in our public lives. It's a very big energy, you guys, especially over these past few weeks. I've seen so many couples go through disruptions, so many friendships go through turbulence, so many really stable or otherwise stable situations all of a sudden start to crumble or start to rock and rattle, and people are having a tough time with this because it's fixed energy. It's something that we want to hold on to. It's something that we thought was solid, whether it's a belief or a mindset or a mental framework or actually a relationship or something really physical like a living situation or a job. Everybody's having some sort of shift throughout this year, big or small, depending on how this is showing up in your chart. And we'll get a little bit more into that in the forecast for all 12 signs, but it's there. And now is a time where we need to look at, where are we procrastinating? Where are we too afraid to do what we need to do in order to make those changes a reality? Fears and anxieties are going to be bubbling up during this new moon energy. People are going to be feeling much more anxious, much more tense, much more restless on that internal level. And that's a cue for, hey, something's going on here. I'm feeling anxious about this situation in my life. I'm feeling fear around this other situation in my life. I'm feeling tension over here. What do I need to do? Where is this coming from? Did I create the situation that's causing this anxiety and tension? Is there something I could actually shift that I'm not shifting out of fear, or because I'm feeling too anxious, or because it seems too stressful or too big of a change or a challenge? This is stuff to kind of ask yourself with this new moon, because we're entering into a new cycle. We're entering into a new phase. This is an ongoing energy. If you haven't started making the changes yet, your time is limited, and those changes will start to come in from the outside. And if you're the one that's been preventing those changes, in true Uranus nature, you're going to be in for quite a bit of a shakeup, right? Because that's basically what the way Uranus works. When you have a difficult Uranus transit, or even a positive one, but when you have a Uranus transit in general, it indicates that there's going to be a disruption, that there's a need for change, an awakening, a liberation, a shift in your paradigm. And if you don't create that when those signals arise, when the tension arises, when you know that you need to do something, right, to shake things up, Uranus will come in and it'll shake things up for you by bringing external circumstances that will do that job, that will serve that purpose. And ultimately, yes, it'll be freeing, it'll be liberating, but it's always a little bit more comfortable and a little bit more of a positive experience when you feel like you're empowered and you're in control of at least some of what's going on. That's not to say that if you change things yourself, you won't also have external changes. You likely can have a combination of both, but you got to put in the work with Uranus, or else Uranus will come in and it'll come in and change things in the weirdest, most unpredictable way. And so this new moon is a time to reflect on what you still need to change to create the life that you've always dreamed of, to create the freedom for yourself that you've always dreamed of. This is a really powerful, really exciting energy. And even though, yes, some people are not going to be feeling super good, like psychologically, emotionally at the time of this new moon, it's for a reason. It's showing you something, and it's going to help stimulate that action, right? Because most people don't take action when they're feeling comfortable, right? They don't take action when everything is good and, mellow and going well. It's when that friction occurs. That's what causes us to realize we have to change something. This is a point of friction, a point of internal friction that's going to show you what you need to do. And so That's what's going on this week. And so let's get into the forecast for all 12 signs. But before we do, I just want to make a couple of very quick announcements. For those who are not aware, I do have a free download for all of you, my Astrology 101 quick reference guide, which gives you a key to the big three signs, sun, moon, and rising, all of the planets, the signs, the aspects, the houses, planetary rulerships, exaltations, fall, detriment, all of it. And so you'll have a really good little handy reference guide for when you're listening to these forecasts, when you're watching my tutorials, or just for your own purposes in exploring your own chart. And so you can find that link down in the description below to download that now. Also, my Cosmic community is opening up its doors for new membership this month. We had to shift our date a little bit, but it's actually even better astrologically, so I'm excited. And so we are officially opening back up on August 23rd. So mark your calendars because I have a special surprise for you when that happens. And that's what I wanted to mention to you guys. So let's get into the forecast for all 12 signs, beginning of course with Aries and Aries rising. Okay, and so for Aries and for Aries rising, this new moon energy is stimulating new beginnings in the area of creativity, joy, fun, self expression, and play. And so this is actually a pretty good energy for Aries. There is some tension that's building, though. There could be some changes that you're trying to make on the level of finance, and there could be a little bit of anxiety around these choices, around these changes, around whatever it is that you need to break free from in order to create the reality that you want to create for yourself in this area. There's some fear there. Maybe it's fear around your children and your children's welfare. Maybe it's fear around your ability to still do the things that you love to do because you love because you love to do them, right? Your ability to play. Maybe if you take on this additional work or change your financial situation in this way, you might not have as much room for it. But definitely there's a little bit of maybe mental tension and anxiety brewing, restlessness or stress around some sort of financial change or some sort of change or a big purchase that you need to make on a financial level. This is a good time to see where what's holding you back is maybe more internal versus external, and to reflect on how you can make the changes that you need to make to give yourself the financial freedom that you desire without compromising your ability to do the things that you love, to experience joy, to give your children the life that they want and that they deserve and that you want for them, if that's applicable. And so this is a really good energy. This is also an energy too, you guys. If you care too much about what other people think about what you're passionate about and what it is that you're trying to do to create these resources, that could be an issue too. So looking at your mental paradigm around your social networks and social approval for what it is that you're trying to create. For Taurus and for Taurus rising. So for Taurus, this energy is happening in your fourth house of the home, family, property, and real estate. You've been trying to make a lot of changes, Taurus, because Uranus is transiting your sign. And so maybe even if you're not trying to make those changes are happening, right? So especially if you're a Taurus, sun, moon, or rising, anywhere from let's say 10 to 20 degrees, you're going to be feeling this very intensely this week. And, you know, this energy here is really good for changing or shifting something when it comes to your home, your family, your property, your place of living, real estate investments, things of that nature, in terms of that dynamic, and shifting things in a way that's going to allow you the freedom that you want to create in all areas of life, on a personal level, on a professional level, and on an interpersonal level in your relationships. And so the foundation starts at your roots. It starts at home. It starts with your family. And now's the time to reflect on that. Maybe there's anxieties around family relationships or tensions around concerns involving the home or involving your place of living that are preventing you from really moving into the change that you need in order to liberate yourself fully and completely, to enter into this new paradigm, to move into the life that you want to create for yourself. For Gemini and for Gemini rising. So for Geminis, this new moon is happening in your third house, which is the house of communication, short distance travel, community, your neighbors, your neighborhood, even things like education and certifications can show up in that third house. And so this is actually a pretty good energy for communicating something that you need to communicate or that you need to get off your chest that's been brewing beneath the surface. There could be changes going on behind the scenes in your life or an internal restlessness on an unconscious or subconscious level that needs to come up to resurface in some way, or to be communicated, especially in partnership or to be communicated in relationships. This is also internalized rebellion. So things that you've been wanting to change, things that you've been wanting to disrupt, things that you've been wanting to rebel against, becoming externalized through your language, through what it is that you share with other people and what you share with the world. This could be shocking and disruptive and challenging to some people, but for the most part, I do think that when you share what you need to share, it will be more well received if you spend that time in reflection and really mull it over at the time of the new moon. It could be that you're afraid and that anxiety, that tension, that stress is around speaking your truth, speaking your mind, or writing your truth, or taking that new course that you want to take because maybe it's strange or weird or different or outside of what you would normally do, outside of your comfort zone. Now's a time to reflect on what's holding you back from learning what you want to learn, exploring what you want to explore, and saying what you want to say. For Cancer and for Cancer rising. So for Cancers, this energy is happening in your second house, which is the house of money. And so money's on your mind this week, especially into this weekend, Cancer, when we come into the new moon. And so this could be a lot of anxiety, stress, mental tension, or a sort of a mental fixation around a challenge or an issue involving your resources, your partner's resources, debt, taxes, inheritance, other people's money that comes comes from the outside and not necessarily from your own hard work and effort. That could be a part of this too. Or there could be a situation where there's somebody or some entity, like, I don't mean like an entity like, oh, it's like maybe, but not like a ghost or a demon or something, but like an entity, like a business entity or a corporate entity or something like that, like a bank holding money over your head, right? And there's a sense of control or a sense of lack of control that you need to work on working through, right? You need to work on getting rid of, you need to work on letting go of whatever it is that's controlling you through finances, or whatever it is that's controlling you through fear that's preventing you from creating the life that you want to create on a material level. This could also be that your friends think what you're doing is weird, or you're afraid of being judged by your friends if you reach out for help, or if you just admit to what's going on in your life, or you admit to the fears that you're having, not just around, money and finances, but it could be that you're feeling a lot of social pressure, a lot of social fear or anxiety in social situations this week too. And that could be something that comes up for you. But the root of all this, the place where the change really needs to happen this week is primarily financial, I would say, for most people. It's financial, and it's also looking at your fears and your anxieties on all levels that come from past experiences that are preventing you from being who you want to be out in the world, out in your social circle, from finding your actual real tribe, and also any fears or anxieties that are preventing you from creating resources, creating the resources that you want to create, but also creating them in the way that you want to create them, right? That's the thing too. Okay, and so for Leo and for Leo rising. So for Leos, first off, happy birthday, Leo. It's Leo season. So if you're a Leo sun sign, this is a big energy for you, especially if it's your birthday this week and this weekend in particular, because this is your solar return and it's a new moon solar return. New moon solar returns indicate really powerful, really intense new beginnings that really unfold throughout the entire year. It's like a cosmic reset year where a lot is ending from your past and a lot is being seeded and being set in motion that's going to grow in future solar cycles. It's not that everything manifests that year. It's like this is the year where everything changed and everything started, everything began. This thing in my life now, it began during this new moon solar return year. And so that's a big energy for Leo suns. Even if you're not a Leo sun sign, this is a reset for you, especially if you're a Leo sun, moon, or rising. Anywhere from 10 to 20, anywhere from 10 to 20 degrees, you'll be feeling this the most. And this is a shakeup in all areas of life that you've been experiencing, Leo. All of the fixed signs have. And so there is a lot of tension or a need to change or shift or work on something in your relationship. There's a push and pull in all relationships. I'm not saying that it has to be romantic. So if you're not in relationship, that's okay. Still applicable in, family relationships, business partnerships, friendships, and all of that. But there's an energy here where you need to put in some additional work in your relationships. And there's also a push and pull between needing to create or facilitate more freedom and more excitement in relationship, while also needing to refine and stabilize your foundations for the long term. So it's kind of like stabilizing and putting in the work and, making sure that this is really solid without locking things down too much or becoming too restrictive in relationship. And this new moon is actually going to highlight that energy, but it's also going to bring a reset that you need when it comes to your partnerships. This is a time where you could feel a lot of anxiety on a lot of different levels. On a personal level, in your body, you could feel more tense, more restless. In your mind, certainly you'll feel more restless. And that, anxiety could be around career changes or shifts or changes that are going on in your partnerships. This is a good time to reflect on your role and what you need to do in order to facilitate the change that you want and that is needed in these relationships or in your work. So that way you can have the freedom, the liberation, the excitement that you deserve, your partner deserves, or maybe your employees deserve, if that's applicable to you. Looking at how you can shake things up without completely destroying the foundation of something, or if you need to destroy the foundation, what are you going to be building in its place? Okay. And so for Virgo and for Virgo rising. So for Virgos, this energy is happening in your 12th house, which is the house of endings and letting go. It's also the house of dreams, the subconscious realm. It's the house of spirituality. It's also the house that is associated with hibernation and hiding out, solitude and seclusion, right? Places that are hidden from the world and kept secret. Places like, not necessarily kept secret, but some of them are kept secret, like brothels and things like that are 12th house places, but kept secret, like, not kept secret, hidden away from the world, like hospitals, places where you go to be secluded from society, right? Hospitals, rehabilitation centers, retreat centers, temples, monasteries, places like that. It's everything from, the sacred, so like the monasteries, the ashrams, the temples, the churches, whatever it is, to, the profane, which would be, the brothels and places where you go. There's like the underground places that you would go and things like that. So anyway, I don't know why I got on that tangent. Not relevant for everyone, right? But relevant for some. So anyway, this new moon energy is bringing new energy, new fresh energy into this need to sort of hide away from the world, to pull yourself out of normal society. There's probably going to be an internal restlessness. There could potentially be some weird dreams where you're getting some really important downloads and messages that you're going to want to pay attention to. But the main thing that you're kind of shifting or changing is, first off, your belief system, your perspective on the world. There could also be a little bit of a shakeup or tension around a course that you're taking or travel plans that are coming up for you, or a teaching engagement, or that educational pursuit kind of on the flip side. This is also, maybe you're just really burdened on a day-to-day level when it comes to your work, your daily habits, your daily routines, and it's causing a lot of stress. And maybe it is that you need to get away, that you need to take a vacation, but the thought of taking a vacation with so much on your plate gives you more anxiety, right? It's like, this is more stressful than actually working. I would say that if that is the case, you really do need to pull yourself away. This is a time to spend in reflection and in solitude, in rest this weekend, right? This is a time for rest and reprieve. It'll be a good reset, and you'll be much more able to cope with the harsh realities of day-to-day life and the burdens that you have to take on a daily basis if you are feeling overwhelmed and stressed. In either case, good time for reflection and journaling. Magic can happen, good things can come up, and new breakthroughs and awakenings can come through spending that time in contemplation. For Libra and for Libra rising. So for Libras, this energy is happening in your 11th house, which is the house of friends and social networks and people that you surround yourself with by choice. For Libras, this is actually a nicer energy than it is for a lot of the other signs. This new moon is it's not mitigating, it's amplifying some of the tensions of the Saturn Uranus square, which is in your fifth and in your eighth house, power struggles, financial issues, issues involving children, feeling like you can't have the freedom to do the things that you love to do, or maybe you're struggling to turn something that you love into something practical like a business. All of those things could come up for you, and maybe fears and anxieties around what other people think about your financial situation or about the business that you're starting or the way that you raise your children or whatever it is. That could come up. But this energy is being mitigated by the fact that it's actually going to be trining your descendant, and it's going to be sextiling your ascendant. This could actually be a good time to reach out to a friend, to connect with people, to connect with your tribe, or to connect one-on-one with somebody, to have an important conversation that's been weighing on you or causing you some kind of anxiety. At the very least, this is a good time to reflect on your connections and friendships and which ones are solid and which ones are not so solid. That's actually, yeah, if there are power control issues or struggles in your friendships right now, that's something to really look at. Like, is this friendship facilitating freedom and liberation and excitement in my life, or is this just a burden? This would be a good time for you to sit and reflect on that during this new moon energy this weekend on Sunday. For Scorpio and Scorpio rising, this new moon is happening in your 10th house, which is the house of career and public reputation. This is a time to facilitate new beginnings in that area of career and public reputation, but there's a lot on your plate and a lot that you need to think about. You have to make sure you have your ducks in a row at home. You have to make sure that you're still being supportive in your relationships. There's a lot going on that you want to push forward with and kind of like launch into when it comes to your work or your career path or your legacy that you leave behind after work, your public standing, your public status, or your relationship with somebody in a position of power and authority. There could be a lot of tension or anxiety around your work that stems from interpersonal relationships or interpersonal issues, either romantically or otherwise. It could be business partnerships or business collaborations that are disrupting something in your life or that are a little bit more burden or trouble than they're worth, or that need to change in some way. This is a time to reflect on that, right? How do your relationships impact your business? How does your family life and home life impact your work and your career choices? Are you making career choices out of fear because there's pressure being put on you in a relationship, romantic, business, friendship, or otherwise? Are you making choices out of fear because your family's putting pressure on you? Where are you holding yourself back because of fear, right? That's a really good thing to reflect on for this new moon for Scorpio. And for Sagittarius and Sagittarius rising, this energy is a little bit nicer for Sagittarius. And so this new moon is happening in your 9th house, which is the house of, it's the house of perspective. It's the house of adventure. It's the house of knowledge gained through experience, wisdom gained through experience. It's the house of, going out there and living something. You might be feeling kind of restless on a day-to-day level. You're wanting to rebel against your current circumstances at work or at home or just kind of in general. You're feeling like you need to shake things up. Your day-to-day life cannot be monotonous right now, but it kind of, to a certain extent, part of it is. This is also, I would say for Sagittarius, this could be a really powerful, positive kind of new beginning energy for those who are Sagittarius, Sun, Moon, rising anywhere from 10 to 20 10 to 20 degrees. You'll be feeling this in a really good way. It's going to launch you into something that's in alignment with your integrity, that's in alignment with your beliefs about God, the universe, the world around you, your moral and ethical value systems. However, you have to let go of those mental blockages. You have to let go of that voice that's telling you that you're not good enough, you can't do it, or that you should be afraid for this, that, or the other reason, right? And once you do that, your plans will be solid. What you're launching into will be solid. Maybe you're launching into a teaching pursuit. Maybe you're launching into some travel plans. Whatever it is, look at the mental attitude that's holding you back, shift that, and you will be unstoppable this month. For Capricorn and for Capricorn rising. So for Capricorn, this energy of the new moon is happening in your 8th house, which is the house of money, money, money. And so money's on your mind, right? And it's not only the house of money, but because of this configuration it's making, I would say for a lot of Capricorns and especially Capricorn risings, there will be some financial stress or strain or worries that'll come up. Whether or not they're warranted or backed by actual physical events, that's another story. But it could be that you're just stressed or anxious about a big purchase, about saving, about paying off debts, about something going on financially involving insurance, your partner's resources, or your own resources that you create through your own hard work and efforts. If that's the case, look at where this is all in your head versus where it's actually real. So, what's real that you're worried about? What is happening actually right now with your finances versus what's going on in your head? Do those two things align? And if they don't, throw it out, right? Throw out those fears because you need to make some changes. And those changes that you're making are going to liberate you and cause you to be able to experience much more joy, much more freedom, much more fun, much more play, much more romance in your life. But you have to get rid of those mental blockages and you have to create that financial platform for that freedom and for that liberation, right? And if you're afraid to make the moves, then you're not going to be able to change anything. So that's really the point of reflection for Capricorns. Also, there could be power struggles and control issues that come up in relationship that need to be talked out. Involving like finances and resources in particular. And so just another thing to kind of think about. So if that does come up for you, I would say spend some time and reflect on it. Don't necessarily address it at the new moon unless you have to. But it is something that you need to address and that you need to tackle. Okay, so for Aquarius and for Aquarius rising. So for Aquarius, this new moon energy is happening in your 7th house, which is the house of relationships. And so this is an energy that is going to be especially tense and especially unsettling, I would say, for Aquarius, just like all of the other fixed signs, because this is hitting you really hard. This is activating that fixed square that's been going on all year long. That's going to continue through the remainder of the year. This is a big moment in time where there could be some sort of tension or some sort of issue that comes up in relationship that you might feel very worried, anxious, or stressed about. If that's the case, look at what's actually going on. What is the hard reality of the situation? And, is that reflected in your thought processes? Like what's actually happening versus what are you feeling anxious about? Like that's a really good practice for this new moon, I think, for anyone. And maybe I'll splice that into the start of the video, but for you in particular, it's like, is this actually what's going on in the relationship? Or did somebody say something the wrong way and I just took it and exploded it over to this, right? And like blew it out of proportion, because that's also a Leo thing. Over dramatizing things, especially when it's in this like tense energy, right? That's not the highest expression of Leo. Leos can do better than that, obviously, and they do. But like when it's tense like this, there could be maybe you're over dramatizing it like in your head. This is also a time to look at where your relationships either help or hinder your ability to create the freedom that you want to create at home with your living situation, out there in the world with your career and your public reputation. And on a personal level, you're going through a big reset. You're changing a lot. And so are these relationships supportive to that, or are they burdensome, right? And how can you actively work to make the changes that you want to make, and let go of any fears and anxieties around that. And then for Pisces and for Pisces rising. So for Pisces, this energy of the new moon is happening in your 6th house, which is the house of health, work, and daily routines. It also represents animals and pets and things like that. And so there could be anxiety or just a lot of restless kind of nervous tension in your day-to-day life, right? There could be something that you're worried about involving your health. There could be something that you're worried about involving your pets. There could be something you're worried about involving your work, or it could be all of the above, or just in general. This is a house that kind of impacts everything you're doing all day long. And so it could be that you're just, it's all of it, right? You're just feeling anxious. You're just feeling on edge. You're just feeling restless. Just know that that's going to pass. It's not going to last forever, but this new moon is facilitating that. This is a good time to reflect on where you need to let go of some stuff, right? Saturn's transiting your 12th house. You're going through a big purge, a major period of endings and letting go. Where do you need to let go of something in order to create what you want, to liberate yourself on a mental level, to liberate yourself on a physical level, to liberate yourself on a day-to-day basis from the tedious, monotonous things that you don't want to do anymore because they're not actually facilitating growth. They're not actually helping you. They're not actually helping anyone. They're not actually aiding in your career. They're not actually aiding in your ability to be healthy and strong physically, right? There could be changes that you need to make to your exercise routines, to your nutrition, to the way that you just treat and think about your body. It could even be that there's like mental energy that's creating blockages or causing stress on the body, and that's what needs to be addressed. Whatever it is that's coming up for you in those areas, it's a time to reflect on this, right? It's a time for you to think about what's causing stress and anxiety in your life, and how can you work on making the small changes every single day to shift that and to liberate yourself from it. And so that's what's up for Pisces and for Pisces rising. All right. And then for next week's forecast, you guys, it's kind of an interesting energy. So August 9th through August 15th, we actually have a little bit of a lull with like the craziness. Well, I shouldn't say that. There's some really powerful positive energy brewing. We have Venus in opposition to Neptune and in a really nice trine with Pluto. And so this could be really good for compassionate, deep, really intense connections in relationships. This could be really good for facilitating creativity in a very pragmatic way in Virgo. This could be really good for, things involving beauty or aesthetics that you really need to pay a lot of attention to detail with, or things involving beauty and aesthetics that also impact the health of the body or something like that. This is good energy, I would say, in a lot of ways for those types of things. But, and this is kind of like a big caveat here. So we have Mars in the sign of Virgo. We have Mercury in the sign of Virgo. They're kind of close together, right? They're not, they're within orb of being an impact on one another, and they're squaring the lunar nodes. And so this is an eclipse activation, or a mid kind of in between eclipse season activation, where you might have some faded, karmic, very off the wall occurrences that shift you in a new direction, that shift you into a new paradigm, that are related to the topics and themes that have been ongoing each eclipse cycle coming back up for you. But it probably would come about and will come about in a way that's very acute, very abrupt, very quick. And it's like, oh crap, this happened, and then like everything changes, or something big changes, and it throws you in this new direction. And so that's what we'll be talking about next week. And thank you guys so much for watching this video. If you enjoyed this video, please subscribe to my channel, like the video, and make sure that you share it with your friends if you feel like they can benefit from the information that I just shared with you today. Thank you guys again so much for watching, and I will see you next time. Bye, everyone.